On a very special broadcast for 72 years, honoring and marking 72 years of Israeli independence. Israel Independence Day is coming, and that's right after Passover, right after Israel Holocaust Memorial Day, and it brings up issues of freedom, of liberty, of nationalism, of heritage, of biblical heritage, and really the question of what is this all about? What is this project all about? Is it an important project? Is it one that's really changing the world? Is it just protecting Jews? Is nationalism something that's important to all of us? Is liberty really in the cards? Or are we being shut down from liberty? Of course, I'm also talking in light of the coronavirus situation and all that's happened in the last few months. Altogether, there's a lot of questions out there. Well, I have a great way to answer those questions, and that's some of the cultural icons of today, superstars that really, not only are they smart, but they really shape the way so many of us think. They get it out. They're artists that ship. They really get it out to the world. And we have with us three amazing people, Katie Hopkins, Caroline Glick, and David Horowitz. Let me talk a little bit about some of these people who are really all heroes of mine. Caroline Glick is the senior columnist at Israel Hayom, Israel's leading newspaper, and senior fellow at the Middle Eastern Affairs at the Center for Security Policy. She's the author of The Israeli Solution, a one-state plan for peace in the Middle East. That's one state, not two states. And she's the author of other books as well. All have been vetted and endorsed by people like Vice President Mike Pence, etc. She has been Prime Minister Netanyahu's foreign policy advisor, assistant foreign policy advisor, and in her previous, and we'll see also like David, in her previous kind of life, she was also a core member of Israel's negotiating team with the Palestinians. Her writing appears everywhere, including Wall Street Journal, New York Times, National Review, and others' commentary. But really, anybody who's an Israeli nationalist or a pro-Israel nationalist knows Caroline Glick's writing. And I'm talking about in Hebrew and in English. So that's incredible to have her with us today. Katie Hopkins, another amazing lady, is a British conservative. First thing is that she came to visit me in Hebron and started fighting with everybody who was a bad guy. So Katie Hopkins is a British conservative media personality, a newspaper columnist, a radio show host, known for her unflinching reporting in hostile environments. She's actually, she may not look it, but she's a trained economist, a graduate of the Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst, and she served in the Army for 35 years before leaving to run a management consultancy. That's all good, but then she was selected as a candidate on the British Apprentice show, became quite famous, and from then her career took off. Today she's the most read columnist at Daily Mail, most listened to Sunday commercial radio show host in England, appeared on BBC, Fox, Carlson, Hannity, etc. And she is one of President Trump's most ardent supporters. She's one of the few people that he does follow, and she has 1 million followers on Twitter and a best-selling book called Rude. And when you hear her talk, you'll know why. And then we have with us, of course, David Horowitz, who is one of the leading lights in our generation, a conservative thinker and writer who didn't start off that way. By the way, I read about him that the question mark is, when does he eat or sleep? Because he's really authored dozens of books. He began as a left person, in fact, one of the founders of the New Left, and in the 60s was the editor of the left's largest magazine, Ramparts. But he explains in his best-selling autobiography, Radical Son, how he transitioned away from that, ultimately finding a political home, an intellectual home, and as a conservative activist. He started the David Horowitz Freedom Center, whose mission it is to defend free societies in places like the United States and Israel, amongst others. He has fought many political battles, exposing deadly intentions of jihadism, challenging left-wing indoctrination in K through 12 public schools and then universities, and advocating to withdraw funding for terror-affiliated organizations like Students for Justice in Palestine. He's the author of many books, including The Black Book of the American Left, a 9-volume collection of his conservative writings over the past many decades, and also 3 books already on the Trump era. That is an amazing achievement, and you guys are all amazing. And we have also, together with the 3 amazing stars that we also have an amazing holiday that we're celebrating. That's 72 years of Israeli independence, and along with that, also 100 years since the San Remo Accords in 1920, where the Allied powers that were victorious in World War I came to take apart the Ottoman Empire and decide who's going to get pieces of it. They did that on April 25th, 1920 in San Remo, Italy. And of course, that was also the birth of the Jewish state in the land of Israel. So before we go on, I want to ask all three of you. I'll start with Carolyn. Carolyn, if you could give us just a few